Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to Gen Z iOS Code. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a welcome screen like these. So even though it might look kind of simple, I'm going to show you a couple of tricks that you might not know that are going to be really helpful in your code and that you can use in all your projects, right? Right, so let's get to the video. All right, so what do we see here, right? We see, of course, a simulator, our iPhone 17 Pro. So, and then we see a welcome screen that says Income Ultra on top, right? We have an asset in the middle, we have an image, and then we have a small like subtitle right here, and then we have a button down below. Right, so this might look kind of simple, but as you can see right here, this is the kind of screen that you want to show at the beginning of every single app, or you might even have like separate, like different screens, right? That you can like kind of like scroll. And then once you see this, you want to be able to like, so the user can, get a little bit of a feeling about your app, and then they can tap on the get started, and then they can get into the actual app, right? So as you can see here, you can tap on get started, and then you see a nice animation and nice transition that you can get into the app. All right, so let me show you. I'm going to be showing you how to do that, but in a very clean way, right? It's not just going to be one single view in which I, list down the elements and then that's it. So I'm going to show you the good way to do it that you can actually scale it, right? And then use it in your production app. All right, so let's get to the code. Let's put this on the side. Right, so the first thing we're going to do, we can take a look here. We have a welcome screen tutorial app. That's the struct, that's the main struct, that is starting point of the app, right? You see this app main right here. This is where the app, when you start it, this is where it goes. So one thing I'm going to do is I usually create a folder right here just to organize everything a little bit, right? I'm going to call it core. And then I'm going to create another folder, right? Let's see, new folder, and I'll call it domain. So usually data models, I put them in the main. Let's say anything that we're creating that's a data model, we put them in the main. You're going to see that in a minute. And then every single screen, I put it in core. So views and view models, I usually put them in core. That way I have them like together right there, right? So I don't have to be jumping around to see the view in one folder and the view model in another one. Right, so that's usually what I do. So you'll be tempted to just go ahead and create the welcome screen and then just have it as a first view, right? So first view will be welcome screen, and then from there you can kind of like maybe like do a navigation link or something, and then from there transition into the main view of the app. But we're not gonna do it that way. We're gonna do it the get way, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and in core, we're gonna create a new, and actually this content view, let's move it into core, right? And let's change the name, right? Let's change the name of these. I think the refactor here. The rename is broken for the Xcode beta, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do we're gonna call this app starting view, right? I'm gonna call this app starting view. Let's change it here as well, and then let's change the name of the file. Oh, right, sorry about that, had a minor issue with Xcode. There we go. So now we refactor the name, right? Now we call it app starting view. Let's see if that compiles. We're getting some errors here. Let's see if we do command B. It cannot find, right? So let's do app starting view. So now when we go into the app, when we run the app, the main thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna call this app starting view. And I usually like doing this because you kind of know you're pointing to the app starting view, so that view is going to be in charge. That way we don't have like much logic in here. And then we have the app starting view as that view is going to be in charge of like showing whatever view we're trying to show, right? So the first thing we're going to do is inside domain, we're going to do command N for a new file. And then we're going to create an enum, right? So it's not just going to be a Boolean should show welcome screen, right? No, we're not going to do that. We're going to do it the right way. We're just going to create an enum called app mode, right? So that enum is going to have app mode, right? We're going to have two values. So one value is going to be welcome, and the other value is going to be app. So when we start the app, right? So when we start the app right here, basically what we're going to have is we're going to go into this welcome view, right? So this welcome view is basically the whole app is going to be in this mode called welcome. And then once you get started, the app's going to switch modes into the app mode, right? So that's what we're going to be doing. Let's actually go back to the welcome, right? So now that we have this mode right here, let's go back into app starting view. And then the first thing we're going to be doing, we're going to create an add state. So add state private var, or app mode of type app mode, of course, and we're going to set it to welcome because that's going to be the first thing we're going to show, right? And then here, what we're going to do is we're going to switch on that, right? We're going to switch on these. So what we're going to do, we're going to do a group, and I'll explain why in a second. So we're going to switch on the app mode, right? And we're going to do case welcome. Yeah, Apple Intelligence is not really that great. So here we got welcome and we got app, right? So for app, let's just say app view because we're not going to be creating that. And then for welcome view, we're going to have app mode. And when we have actually, this is correct. Let me just comment it out for now. And let's just say text welcome view, right? There we go. So now if we run the app, we do command R, and you run the app, you can kind of see, even in the preview, you can see it. It's just going to say welcome view, right? So we're basically doing a switch on the app mode, and we're saying if the app mode is welcome, we're going to start with the welcome view. If now we're going to switch into the app mode, right? Which is basically saying app view, right? Because that's what we have in the text. Right, so now let's go ahead and start creating our welcome view. Let's do Command N. Let's create a SwiftUI view, right? And let's call this welcome view. All right. So there we go. And we have a hello world right here. So I usually do Command I for the indentation. So I have it set to 2, right? Instead of 4. So you can change that in the settings. And now let's create another file because I'll be creating a view model for this as well. So I'm not just going to put everything in the view. We're going to be having a view model for presentation logic, right? So welcome view model. All right. So let's actually create the view model really quickly. So we're going to do final class welcome view model. We're not instantiating this class. So we're just basically saying final because we're not going to do any more than that. So let's do function. Actually, no, let's do that later. The only thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to do it and I'm going to make it so it's main actor. So that means that any changes that we might do that might affect the UI, it'll do it in the main actor. It'll do it in the main thread. So any UI change has to be done in the main thread. So that way we don't need to specify each time we're changing a variable that might change the UI. By default, it's just going to pick the main actor, right? Right, so that's why we're doing that. All right, so let's go back to the view now. Right, so right here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say add state, private var view model, and I'm going to say welcome view model, right? So usually right here, you will have something like, like observation. I think that's what it's called. Observation. Observable. Is it observable? All right. Let me actually do import SwiftUI. And then that should come with the observable. There we go. Succeeded, right? We're not going to be doing any publishes, but by default, let's just make it like that, right? So you can expand it as you do things, right? Right, so here we're gonna have a binding, right? And I'll explain what you could do better. App mode. So this is what we're gonna be passing of type app mode. Right, so whenever you instantiate these, you need a binding for app mode, right? So now let's do $. Actually, no, we're gonna do just a constant, and let's just say not true. Let's just say welcome, right? So we show the welcome view. Now let's go to our app starting view. And then right here, let's actually do this. Let's call our welcome view and let's pass in our app mode, right? As a binding. So whenever this changes, it'll reflect back in the app starting view and it'll do again the switch. So let's see. So let's go back here. All right, so let's actually start creating our, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my asset, right? And I'm gonna put it right here. So you can grab any, like any image you wanna put in there and you can just put it right here, right? I just called it welcome, so we're gonna work with that. All right, so now if we look at the final app, let's just see it right here. If we look at the final app, you can see that we have three components, right? We have the one on top, the middle, and then the one below. So this is, you know, by first sight, you can kind of see this is a VStack, and then we have the separated components. So let's actually work on that, right? So right here, let's just say we have a VStack. And then here, of course, we need some sort of title. We're gonna have some sort of spacer. Now we're gonna have another VStack, and I'll explain that in a second. And then we're gonna have another spacer, and then here we're gonna have the button, right? So maybe get started button. So some sort of blueprint, so you can kind of see where we're going. So now everything here, I'm gonna just comment it out, right? And now what I usually do, I don't just put views in here. I create a private extension. So private extension, because views, they cannot be used by any other views. So what I do is, since to make sure we don't access them by mistake, I just create a private extension and I put them in there. Now for the VStack, we wanna make the VStack the whole screen, so we'll make a little padding so that nothing touches the borders. And now we do a frame, and we say max width infinity and max height infinity. That way we're basically saying the VStack is going to be the entire screen, right? And then the padding just so the components don't touch the borders, right? So now inside the extension, we're gonna actually create our thing. So we're gonna create our title, some view, and now we're gonna do text. And of course, now we need the name of the app, right? So let's just say, you know, income right now, income ultra. Let's just put it like that. And now we're gonna do font. This is going to be font title, and font weight. This is going to be bold. Now this one we can uncomment it, and now we're gonna see income ultra right here. Now we don't want to, you know, ideally we don't have this in the view like that, like a little string, right? The name of the app, because you know, we can even use it in like different places of the app. So what we want to do is we want to put it in the view model, right? We want to put it in the view model. Let's make a function right here. I'll get app name, right? This is going to return a string. And then we're going to say income ultra. We don't need the return statement because it's only one line of code. So by default, it's just saying we're going to return these. So now even better, we're not going to be doing it in this video because that goes like out of the scope of the video. But even better, we should have some sort of service, right? Or what I call a store, in which we have, like, let's say I usually have an app info store or an app info service, right? So you will have something like these, right? Let's say let app info, let's just say app info equals, and then maybe you initialize it, something like that. And then once you have, let me just say here, I'll type app info or app info store or service, right? And then here, what you would do, because you don't want these things to live in the view model either, because again, like you're not going to be sharing this welcome view model with another view in the app, right? So what you want to do is, in order to not make mistakes and just have these, you know, typed out here, you only want to type it once, right? So you want to have some sort of service or store that you can reuse and you can import in every single view model, so that you can have, you know, a reusability. And this goes for this, right? For the name. But it also goes for any other piece of information, right? Like developer name, maybe the copyright URL, the website of the app, like anything that you might reuse, you might as well just put it in a store or a service, and then you grab it from there. And then right here, you could do app info store. You could do something like these, right? App info store, that app name, right? Something like that. Now we're not going to have that. Now, ideally, you don't initialize it here. You pass it in, or use dependency injection. That's usually like a really important topic, dependency injection, so that the app can be a lot more testable. So if you want to know a little bit more about that, I do have this full app, right? So let me actually minimize this for a second. So the full app looks like these, right? This is the full app where you can see it's a calculator, an income calculator app. And I do have a course on the app. You can see it down below. I'll leave the link down below, in which I go through system design and coding, and I code the app from scratch using a lot of the system design patterns that we talk about, using dependency injection, model view model, stores, services, and everything you need to know to actually master iOS while doing this app. And I also have this older app. I have the source code and also a course on this app, right? Well, in which I do the same thing. I go over system design, good code. So yeah, if you feel ready to take on any of these, right? You don't need to have much experience, so you can go from beginner and sign up for these courses and actually get it through. So yeah, I'll just leave the links down below. Hope they're helpful. And then yeah, that's if you want to get deeper into any of these concepts or if you want to build these really cool apps, right? Right, so now let's go back to Xcode. Right, so now let's get rid of these. And then for now in this video, we're gonna be doing it like that, right? So get app name. Now let's go back to our welcome view. And now in our welcome view, now here, instead of just saying income ultra like that, you can just say view model, right? Because we have a view model that get app name, right? And that way, you know, the view knows even less, so that's way more cleaner. Yeah, the less the view knows, the better. So the view should only be for, you know, views. The view model should only be for presentation logic. And then for things that are like extra, you can create services for stores to kind of like decouple all your logic, right? All right, so I think that looks pretty good, right? Now, let's create our welcome image, right? So let's say welcome image, right? So in view, we're gonna have an image, and then we can just say that welcome. You see that it has a reference to image resource. So let's make it resizable, actually, so you can see what's happening. Let me actually, that's gonna be inside this v stack right here. Let's just have a welcome image right here. Right, so resizable. Let's make it scale to fit so that it doesn't look like that. Now the aspect ratio looks pretty nice. And now let's make a frame to make it the max width, you know, have any constraint. I'm gonna do that infinity, right? There we go. Right, so I also have the welcome text right below. So let's put it right here. So welcome text, some view, right? So let's create that. Let's do text. And I do have it right here, so you don't have to watch me type this whole thing. So we're gonna say effortlessly calculate your income. We're gonna do break the line, and let's get started right below, right? So we're gonna say font. This is gonna be title 3. Font weight. It's gonna be medium. And multi text alignment. Let's do center. Let's actually put it down here so that you can see what I'm doing. But yeah, basically it's a simple text. We're putting it a little bit bigger, right? Because by default it's body. The font weight is medium. We're putting the alignment center, right? So it looks like this. And then the last thing will be the color. So we have it as gray, I believe. So let's do foreground style, color, that gray. All right, so I'll make it gray. I think it makes really nice contrast because you want the main attention not to be there, but to be like the asset, the name, and then the button. Right. So now let's actually, the button goes right down below, right? So let's actually put these two spacers. See that now that we have those two, this goes to the middle, and now once we have the button, this will get pushed up a little bit, right? So now here, I'm gonna decrease the spacing a little bit. So let's do spacing 0 because this has its own spacing. Right, there we go. Now let's create our button, right? Let's call it like that. Var get started button, some view, right? Let's put it right here. So a button, and then labeled. Right, so the same thing, you know, that I talked about dependency injection, creating services and stores. So I think you should have a service, right, or store for app mode, right? So something where you keep track of everything that's like general, like to the app, right? So the app mode wouldn't be like something you're passing like here, like a binding. So if you have a service or store, you could do that as well. I think like we have it now. It's pretty good, like it's pretty decent. And the main stuff is like we're not doing a boolean, we're doing an enum, right? An app mode that can have different states. But yeah, you can sort of improve it a little bit or decouple it even more if you just have a store or separate service where you can keep track of these, right? And then in the view model right here, you could import that as well. And then you can change the app mode in the view model instead of in the view. Right, so for now, let's just do, so what is this button going to do, right? It's going to change the app mode to the app, right? And then what we're going to do, we're going to have a text, get started. So that's basically how the button's going to look. And now it's uncommented out so you can see how that looks. So now you can see the button just looks like a little off, right? So the accent is usually blue. So let's change that. So let's make font. Let's make it headline, that it gets a little bolder, right? So let's do foreground style. Let's do color that white. And now you're not gonna see it, but that's because I'm gonna change the background right now. But before I change it, let me just have a frame max width infinity. So that goes the entire, makes the button go the entire width. Now I'm gonna make a little bit of a padding, and now I'm gonna make the background, and now you're gonna see what I'm talking about. I'm gonna do green. Now green looks like a little too much, right? So I'm gonna do, just to make it a little down a little bit, I'm gonna do saturation. I'm gonna do 0.5, so that the color goes down a little bit, right? Corner radius, let's do 8. I think 8 is pretty good. And now let's do some shadow. Let's actually do option here, so that all of them up here. Let's do color will be black. That's usually the one I use the most. Opacity 0.1, radius 2, the X is 0, and Y is 2. Also, if you get one of my courses, I will show you how to create these in a very simple way, right? So you'll have standardized buttons across the entire app, standardized shadows, standardized corner radiuses, colors, and things like that. So all of that I teach them in my courses, and you can see them in the source codes as well. So again, I'll put them down below if you want to get deeper into that. All right, so now you can see that it gets pretty good, and now we have even the functionality working. So now let's go ahead and run the app. Let's do Command R, and let's see how it's looking, right? All right, there we go. Let's go ahead and run the app again. So now that you're seeing the full app, now it's looking like the one we had right at the beginning. But now if we tap in to get started, you see that it's abruptly like taking you into the app view. So we want to, have it a little bit more smoother, like an animation, right? We want to have some sort of animation there to make it smooth. So that's why I added here a group, right? Because if you just have a switch, you cannot put animation or any modifiers like after the switch. So I just made them in a group. So now here in the group, I can go ahead and say that animation, pick the one with the value, and the animation is going to be easy in, right? And then the value is going to be app mode. So this is basically saying whenever app mode gets changed, whatever changes, right? Whatever changes, make it into an animation of easy in. It's like make an animation of easy in that will happen for whatever value changes when app mode changes, right? So now if we run the app again, let me actually close it, right? And now if we run it again, Command R, or you can come here to the play button. Now if we tap on get started, right? You see that it, transitions very nicely into the app mode, right? Into the mode where you can actually, code your app. And yeah, I think that'll be all. So the most important things that you understand how to decouple things and how to structure your app so that it's not all in one view. You see how I did this, even though it's like very simple. You see, it's just a welcome view, very simple view. Yes, but there's key aspects to that, right? So there's the app starting view, right? Where I kind of like decouple what's happening. So it's not all happening in a welcome view. So the app starting view is handling what view to show. We also have an enum with different modes for the app, welcome and app. And then even here in the view model, we're decoupling a couple things and put them in a view model, right? So that the view feels a little bit lighter. And then even the structure in our folders, right? So we have the enum in a domain folder, right? And then we have our views and view models in the core folder. So all of that is usually really important, even though it's a very simple tutorial. I wanted to show a little bit more, some kind of hints for like architecture and design when you're building these apps, right? Right. So I think we're done here. It's all good for this video. And then make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.